Hey everybody, welcome back to the New York Wedding. See, I can't even do it. New York Wedding Jam. Hey everybody, I'll start it laughing. Hey everybody, welcome
You,
to.
you. We're still recording, right? This is great. So, Jason, hey everyone. Thanks for coming back to the New York Wedding Jam. Oh, see, and that's terrible too. Hey, let's do it again. Hey everybody. Thanks for
Welcome back,
joining us for the New York Wedding Jam. Welcome back to the New York Wedding Jam.
the podcast for modern couples. Is that what we're doing? Oh, you know what?
That's what
We're,
we have.
we're
That's
just
what we
gonna leave
have.
all
Okay,
this
we're
in.
gonna do it again.
No. We're just gonna leave it in just like this. Okay, perfect.
We know what our name is. That's right.
Yeah, I'm Jason and you're Martine, and welcome back to the Wedding Jam. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jason. How are you today?
Yeah, doing good. I mean, I've had a nice week and working on this, working on that, and I had a few consultations this week, and some of those went well. How about you?
Doing all right. Again, I think I've had some good conversations with couples who planning a little bit further out right now, and those who I'm trying to prep for stuff that's coming in. But it's been a kind of people like to come back into this week a little bit slowly, right after holidays, and so
Yeah.
it's kind of we're dipping our toes back into the water here on getting the planning back up and running. I think one of the things that I have realized is that people don't really love planning. I don't understand that personally. I think it's a lot of fun because really you're just shopping for things, and doesn't that sound like fun to you? It sounds like
It
fun to me.
does. As someone who got married 7 years ago, I got to tell you, it is fun and it isn't fun. It's weird. It's definitely weird. So I get it when couples have difficulty, but I know that one thing that we didn't struggle with too much, but I know a lot of the couples that I work with, some of the couples, not a lot, but some of the couples I work with do have difficulty with sometimes outside influences and things that things that their parents want and things that
Yeah.
they want. And should we get married in a church? Well, my parents want us to, but we didn't really want to. And so I have filmed weddings in churches where the couple really did not want to be in the church. So, today's episode is really going to be about how to make your wedding your own. And that's an important thing, an important boundary and mindset to make or to have as you go into wedding planning with your spouse or your fiance, right?
100%. And I think it is a challenging conversation to have, especially with parents, because they have their own expectations. There are some traditions that your parents are going to insist upon. And I guess from my perspective is maybe that's not worth the fight. But something like, do you want to get married in a church or not, may be very personal, right? You may have very strong feelings about that. And I think one of the things that is critical for me and my couples, I really like for them to be able to articulate boundaries for what is most important to them. And I don't want anybody feeling uncomfortable, right? And so if you're going to be uncomfortable, for example, in a church setting, even if that's what your parents really, really want, making sure that you're having an honest conversation with your parents and not just kind of caving to the pressure of what they're expecting from you. Because ultimately it's your day, and you don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to look back on it and be like, whatever, I just did what my mom wanted, or I didn't want to do this thing, but my parents made me. That's not how you want to feel about your wedding day, in my opinion. So setting up those boundaries, I think, is really important, and being able to properly articulate your wants and the whys for it. I know we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast as well, but the why is often more important. And one thing I do tell my couples is, how best to talk to your parents. You know how to get a yes out of your parents versus a hard no.
Okay, let me pose a question to you, Martine. Let me pose a question.
Yes.
You and I both have couples. We both serve couples that oftentimes are not from this country, or their parents are not from this country.
Correct.
And American culture is such that when you grow up and become a big boy, a big girl, or an older person ready to marry, you're making your own decisions. But in many other cultures, even though they're living here, the culture is that you're still supposed to respect your parents' wishes, and the mom's wants, and especially the dad's preferences, are certainly highly regarded. And so, how do you deal with couples who don't want to, get married in a with a religious ceremony or something like that, but the parents are just beside themselves, and you can't get that yes out of them?
So here's the thing. I think there are two ways to look at it, and everything can be handled with a conversation. If you are approaching it with kindness and respect, like, look, my parents are not from this country either. They're from Haiti. And I can't imagine telling my parents, like fighting with my parents about something, even if I felt very strongly about it, right? But I have learned how to have a conversation that doesn't necessarily put us in conflict with each other. There are many reasons why you might not want to do it in a church that parents might actually understand. But if you just come at it with like a no and like, whatever, it's my wedding and I'm going to want to do it, like, you're going to rub people the wrong way, right? But and again, you obviously, again, everybody knows their own parents, and my situation might not be the same as anybody else's, but making sure that you understand how to have a rational conversation and putting the emotions besides it, you can have a relevant conversation about why not do it in a church. It's often more expensive to do it in a church. There may not be timing that works at the church that would work for what you're looking for the wedding. It may be that the church is not close to a reception space that you need it to be close to, and so then we're worried about distance and if it's comfortable doing that. You may not be religious yourself, whereas your parents are. And so there are a lot of reasons that maybe it's an interfaith wedding, and we're talking about multiple religions or different religions for you and your partner. And so then it becomes a question of there's a lot of other reasons that it might not just be just because that's what your parents have always wished for or always hoped for. But
Right.
you can have that conversation just like you had every conversation about, other things that you want to do, just knowing how to talk to your parents and deal with the situation. And like I said, knowing the why behind the reason that you're wanting or not wanting to do something that might be traditional.
Yes, I want to bring up, and because I know that there are probably people listening who are thinking to themselves, maybe not even religion, but sometimes it could be just tradition, right? With a lot of Asian cultures, there is a certain tradition and kind of a whole different way that a ceremony looks and feels, and the dress, the clothing that folks are wearing. But, as this is, a podcast for modern couples, it's certainly important to acknowledge that while many immigrant families want their children to assimilate into American culture and have come here to give their children a better life, they still want, oftentimes, we definitely understand that parents can still want to hold on to the traditions of their homeland and things that make them feel familiar. And oftentimes you're competing with their friends' children's, right? Maybe, your parents have some friends back from the home country and their kids are here and they got married with the old traditions, and here you are not getting married with those traditions. And sometimes it can be very personal for them. So we definitely acknowledge it, but I think certainly, as Martine said, it's a hard conversation. Every parent set is different, but you're going to have to communicate that in a respectful way, and like Martine said, with some data, back it up with some good reasons as to
Back it up with some good reasons, and
why we can't
also,
do that.
Also, just to be fair, Jason, like, there may be some things. Everything doesn't have to be a hard no, right? Unless it's offensive to you for some reason. There is room for tradition in a wedding.
In a
Right?
modern
So
wedding.
in a modern wedding. There is
Yes.
room for tradition in a modern wedding. My point is just to be thoughtful about those things that you're adding and not just defaulting to items just because somebody said or somebody else did, right? And that you're putting things in that matter to you and your partner, or in some cases where we're allowing something because you know it'll make your parents happy and you want that to be a part of your day as well. And
Yeah.
maybe it's not worth fighting about, right? Like maybe it's not worth fighting about, do we add this piece of the tradition in, because you don't care either way. And fine, it's fine as long as you get the other things that are really important to you, that you add those touches that maybe are important to your parents, but that we're not making it the primary, right? That it's just what your parents want and just what your friends want or just what everybody else has done, that you're being thoughtful about the things that you are including or excluding from the wedding day. So there's a reason and a rationalization behind all the things that you're doing.
Sure. It doesn't have to be binary. There can be elements of this and elements of that in your wedding, and things that honor a tradition while not being, having the whole ceremony be that tradition, right? And so I know one of the points we wanted to talk about was like adding elements that reflect your relationship, but not only reflect your relationship, but reflect who you are and your background as well as your partner's background. If you guys wish to include those things. But certainly, I did a wedding in the Hudson Valley where the girl was American and the guy was from a country in Africa. And so there were parts of this American-style ceremony that had gifts that were actually given to the parents during the ceremony. That's not an American, piece of an American wedding. There were blankets and there were other things that were going on during this American ceremony that was really part of their culture. And it was nice. I'd never seen it before, and I thought it was great. And I think more people should give parents gifts during during the ceremony. I just loved it. It was more things for me to film. It was more interesting to film that aspect of this ceremony from a videography perspective. So I loved it, and I want more of that. But that's what I'm talking about, just adding. And it was a great decision on their part to kind of add these touches and these elements to their ceremony.
100%. And I think that's the thing that we're on the same page for sure, Jason. I definitely do a lot of, like I said, multicultural weddings where we're mixing traditions, whether it's strict American and something else, or, whether it's religious traditions and there are multiple religions that are involved, or multicultural where the kids are from different backgrounds. Or I say kids, the couples are from different backgrounds, but parents want, everybody wants a little piece of what they want there. And I think it should represent you. And so if there are those things those elements that you want to add, I think it's important to know that it doesn't have to be either or. We don't have to do a full Nigerian ceremony, for example. But can we include some pieces of that ceremony inside of the wedding, right? Things like that I've seen couples do, where we take some of this and some of that, we throw them in to the pieces to make to represent you, to represent your partner, but also to honor your parents. And I do think those things are important to think through. As long as we're being thoughtful about it, I think all things are possible. I have a couple, for example, who has a very traditional parents, and they want a 100% traditional ceremony and reception. But one of the big things for them is they don't like to dance. And so they wanted to include games in their wedding. Well, that has nothing to do with like the ceremonial part of it. And we're not, encroaching upon what people are expecting or going to embarrass our parents because we're not doing the traditional ceremonial pieces or anything like that. But we can include the fun stuff that you want that represents you. When everybody knows that's what you guys do is play games, why shouldn't that be included as part of the reception? So all things are part of the conversation, I think, that you can have with your parents, with your friends, with your family, with each other as couples, and make sure that we get to the wedding day that you guys want ultimately.
Yeah, I think being a modern couple and being unique, these are the things that you like to do in your everyday life, and why not have some of those elements reflected in your wedding day, and may that, if that's part of your culture, if that's part of your lifestyle, the way you live your everyday life, the things that you enjoy doing, your hobbies, and you do them along with your friends. who are going to be at your wedding. Certainly, I think that's something that we should be considering more. Is like as the title of this episode says, making your wedding your own instead of a little bit cookie cutter.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for the time, and I look forward to chatting with you on the next episode of New York Wedding Jam.
Bye, Martine.
Bye.